The sound of death was never meant to be heard, until one tape proved how horrifying execution really is. In Georgia, a secret government recording exposed the grim truth about electrocution, a punishment meant to be quick. But what those tapes captured would haunt everyone who heard them.
Warden.
Good of you to come down here today, Sheriff.
Wouldn't miss it for the world.
And here's where it gets even stranger. This entire story began not with an investigator or journalist, but with a defense attorney named Mike Mears back in 1998. His client's life was in jeopardy as he worked on a death penalty case in Georgia. But Mears wasn't just trying to save one man, he was going after the system itself. His goal: to prove that the electric chair, that cold steel monster, was nothing short of cruel and unusual punishment. So during the legal discovery, he pushed hard. He subpoenaed the Department of Corrections, demanding every document and every record tied to executions. He expected a few files, maybe some logs, but what he got instead changed everything. The state turned over 23 clandestine audio tapes, genuine recordings of every execution carried out since 1983. On those tapes, you could hear it all: the preparation, the clanking of metal straps, the last words of the inmate, the buzz of electricity, and finally, the silence that followed. These were not for public consumption, made to log protocol, not pain. They were cold and bureaucratic. Once producer David Isay had access to them, though, the phantasm broke. Those videos revealed the raw, unprocessed truth of state executions by tearing back the death chamber curtain. One tape, though, just one, would rank among the most unsettling of them all. It captured Georgia's third execution of 1984, that of Alpha Otis O'Daniel Stevens, one of the most disastrously botched in U.S. history. Stevens was not some nameless guy on death row. His story stretched back a full decade to 1974, when he escaped from the Houston County Jail at just 29. Shortly thereafter, he and a partner invaded Roy Asbel's home in Twiggs County. They compelled Asbel to get into his own vehicle, snatched his .357 Magnum, and drove him to a solitary shed kilometers away. Stevens pulled the trigger there twice, killing the man at point-blank range. Stevens was apprehended by police the following day in Savannah and accused of murder, kidnapping, and armed robbery. He was sentenced to death in 1975, following a confession and admission to another murder from the prior year. Sitting on death row for 9 years, Stevens submitted appeal after appeal, 5 in total, all denied. At 12:18 a.m. on December 12, 1984, in the early hours, his execution finally got underway.
The execution now has begun. There was one small jerk from the condemned at the time the execution was initiated. He is sitting very still now, and we are also now into the second phase of the execution. We're now into the third phase of the execution. No movement from the condemned, no activity, and no movement from the witnesses.
And this is where the tape goes from cold record to nightmare. You can hear it clearly, the lead official's voice cutting through the silence. Count of 3, press your button. 1, 2, 3. The current hits, a sharp crackle. Stevens's body jerks once, stiff, then slumps back into the chair. For a moment, it seems routine as death could ever be. The executioner's calm tone follows. We are into the second phase, but as the minutes go by, the room begins to tense. Everything seems too quiet, too drawn out. The officials continue describing what they witness, their voices steady but uncertain. Then someone notices it, a small twitch. Another voice breaks in, controlled but trembling. He's still turning his head from side to side somewhat. That was not intended to happen. Stevens was meant to have left. Rather, his body, maybe his intellect, was still battling. The silent professionalism on the tape starts to crack, replaced by the unmistakable sound of bewilderment and terror, indicating something has gone very wrong.
He is still moving his head, and he seems to have slumped down in a relaxing type position in the chair. But
the officials believed it was over by 12:19 a.m. The chair was quiet, the current had stopped, and for some seconds everything appeared definitive. Then motion though, small, initially almost undetectable. Stevens began nodding, swinging left and right. The commissioner hesitated, unsure what they were witnessing. Witnesses leaned forward. The standard procedure before the body was declared dead was a 5-minute pause. As each minute passed though, the discomfort in the room intensified. The supervisor's voice wavered a bit through the microphone. He's still moving his head somewhat. Moments later came another line that froze everyone. It seems like he is breathing. Though everyone knew, nobody wanted to speak it aloud. The man they had just killed was still breathing. Panic simmered. It did not burst. The room was filled with disbelief, fear, and denial. Though they tried to seem in charge, the officials continued their count, and their calm tones couldn't conceal the truth. Something had gone terribly wrong within George's death chamber.
Completed the 5 minutes lapse time. Stand by for the physician's check.
It appears the doctors agree with me that he's still breathing. You want us to check him and then go through it again, or just go ahead and go through it again?
Check him and then go through him again. Definitely check him. Don't vary from the checklist.
When the 5 minutes finally ended, 2 physicians stepped forward to check for signs of life. Their verdict cut through the tension. He's still breathing. The words landed like a blow. What followed was a grim, quiet debate. Do they stop? Try again? Nobody wanted responsibility, but someone had to give the order. Then, the commissioner's voice, low and certain. Repeat the execution. It was a horrifying command, but procedure took over. Guards reset the switches, double-checked the electrical connections, and wet sponges, whispering to each other as they worked. The witnesses were told nothing about why, only that the process would proceed again. No mention of the breathing, no admission of failure. At 12:28 a.m., they were ready. The atmosphere was heavier this time, no longer routine. It was dreadful. Everyone in that room knew they were about to flip the switch on a man who had already been declared dead once. The silence before the next countdown was colder than the steel of the chair itself.
You're going to have them check those sponges and check their connections. There's something they don't have connected right, Willis, or that.
Yes, sir. You want us to go ahead and complete this whole thing and then
Yeah, complete your phase, and then you're going to have to make your check.
Okay, sir.
The countdown begins again. 1, 2, 3. The switch flips, and a violent current tears through Stevens' body. His muscles contract, his head snaps back, and for a moment, silence follows. The kind of silence that everyone hopes means it's over. But then, unbelievably, his head starts to move again. Slow, weak turns from side to side, like a man struggling to breathe through invisible weight. Whispers ripple through the witness chamber. Some avert their eyes. Others stare in disbelief. The commissioner's voice, calm but strained, breaks through. You'll have to check the sponges and connections. Something isn't right. The technicians exchange uneasy glances, but they don't stop. Procedure takes control where humanity hesitates. The second cycle is completed in full, electricity surging once more through a man who should have been gone minutes ago. The air smells of ozone and burnt fabric. Yet, the officials keep their tone even, as though reciting from a manual, while inside the chamber a nightmare plays out in real time, one that no one will ever officially admit went wrong.
Show the time at 12:36. I show the time is 12:37.
Second doctor is still in the process of conducting his check for vital signs. 12:37.
When the second current ends, the room remains still. No one speaks. The supervising officer starts another 5-minute lapse as the smell of smoke lingers. All eyes stay fixed on the condemned, waiting for any sign of movement. But this time, there's nothing. The first doctor comes forward at 12:36 a.m. and sets a stethoscope against Stevens' chest. Not a sound, not breathing, just the faint thrum of machinery cooling down. A minute later, at 12:37 a.m., the second doctor reiterates the check and gives a little nod. Confirmation. The superintendent confronts the witnesses, his voice monotone and official. At 12:37 hours, the condemned was declared dead. The thick curtains shut, closing what had turned into a nearly 19-minute experience that went well beyond the average electric chair execution time. Behind those closed curtains, the staff ultimately exhales, but the terror of what they have seen remains with them. For many that evening, when a man died twice inside George's death chamber, would never fade. The response was explosive when the tapes turned up years later. The quiet, methodical voices on the tapes clashed starkly with the unmistakable proof of human suffering they discussed. The execution of Alpha Otis O'Daniel Stevens marked a turning point in America's death penalty debate. Lawyers, journalists, and human rights advocates grabbed the audio as evidence that electrocution was not only barbaric, but also inaccurate. The same question resounded throughout courtrooms around the country. Was this cruelty disguised as custom or justice? Key evidence in cases contesting the electric chair's breach of the Eighth Amendment's prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment was the Stevens tape. As specifics circulated, the smoke, the constant shocks, the slow death, public confidence in the system started to decline. Under mounting legal and moral pressure, Georgia eventually retired its electric chair, and other states followed. By the early 2000s, most had switched to lethal injection, quietly acknowledging what the tapes had proven. Electrocution was never humane.
He is still moving his head, and he seems to have slumped down in a relaxing type position in the chair. But his head is moving from side to side slightly.
The 23 tapes uncovered from that old box did more than document executions. They forced America to listen to what it had long chosen to ignore. The sterile silence that usually surrounded death chambers was suddenly broken by the hum of electricity, the clinical commands, and the quiet horror of officials realizing something was wrong. These recordings destroyed the ideal of pure, effective justice. Every sound, from the click of a switch to the murmured, "He's still moving," brought a sobering reminder that executions are not distant techniques, but rather human tragedies unfolding in front of us. Legal experts still point to the Stevens case as a watershed event that revealed the ethical war inherent in the death penalty. Furthermore, Mike Mears' unintentional find became a turning point in the struggle for openness, evidence that sometimes noise alone can speak louder than any image ever could. When a machine built for death reveals its flaws, it forces us to ask, what really makes justice humane? Those 19 minutes weren't just an execution. They were a recording of conscience, echoing from behind locked doors, begging us to listen. Like, share, and subscribe for more untold truths.
In 1998, defense attorney Mike Mears was working on a death penalty case in Georgia when he came across something shocking. While preparing the defense of Timothy Carl Dawson, who was charged with multiple murders, his goal was to prove that the electric chair was a cruel and unusual punishment in the hope of saving his client. As part of this effort, he used the legal discovery process and subpoenaed the Department of Corrections for documentation on executions. What he uncovered went far beyond anything he expected. The state had been secretly and systematically recording every execution since 1983. In response to the subpoena, authorities handed over 23 audio tapes that documented every electrocution carried out over a 15-year period. On these tapes, you could hear everything: the preparation of the condemned prisoner, the placement of electrodes and straps, their final words, the surge of electricity, and the physical reactions leading up to the official declaration of death. Later, these recordings came to light through producer David Isay, exposing the brutal reality of a process that had long remained hidden in the shadows. Today, we'll focus on one recording in particular: the execution of Alpha Otis O'Daniel Stevens, Georgia's third execution in 1984. This case became one of the most catastrophic and controversial in the history of the death penalty in the United States. and it remains one of the most debated execution recordings ever released. The audio reveals a botched execution that became critical evidence against electrocution as a method of execution. Minute by minute, it documents the 19 agonizing minutes the process lasted, as Stevens survived the first jolt and remained alive afterward. Alpha Otis Stevens was sentenced to death for the murder of Roy Asbell, a crime he committed in 1974 after escaping from Houston County Jail at the age of 29. Together with an accomplice, he broke into Asbell's home in Twiggs County, surprised him, stole a .357 Magnum revolver, and forced him into his own car. He then drove him to a shed where he shot him twice at point-blank range. The next day, Stevens was arrested in Savannah and charged with murder, armed robbery, and kidnapping. In January 1975, a jury sentenced him to death after he confessed to the crime and admitted to another murder committed in 1973. After spending 9 years on death row and exhausting 5 unsuccessful appeals, he was executed on December 12, 1984, at 12:18 a.m., without the governor granting him clemency. And now, let's move on to the complete recording of this catastrophic execution.
Count of 3, press your button. 1, 2, 3.
The execution now has begun. There was one small jerk from the condemned at the time the execution was initiated. He is sitting very still now, and we are also now into the second phase of the execution. We're now into the third phase of the execution. No movement from the condemned, no activity or no movement from the witnesses. He appears to be relaxing a little bit more now. There's 60 seconds remaining on the third phase of the execution. There is a slight movement from the condemned's head. He seems to be moving his head from side to side slightly.
I showed the time is 12:19.
Commissioner, he is still moving his head, and he seems to have slumped down in a relaxing type position in the chair. But his head is moving from side to side slightly. Commissioner, Mr. Long, the execution is completed at this time. The electrical panel box is secured and locked. I do not detect any movement from the condemned at this time. He seems to have stopped moving his head and also his arms.
I showed the time is 12:20.
You are in the lapse time countdown, is that correct?
Yes, sir. We're into the first minute of the lapse time now. No movement from any of the witnesses, and at this time, no movement from the condemned. We have now completed 1 minute of lapse time, 4 minutes remaining. 2 minutes of lapse time completed at this time, 3 minutes remaining. Still, very little movement from any of the witnesses, and I detect no movement from the condemned at this time. Commissioner?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes, sir.
There is some slight movement. He's still moving his head slightly. The only thing we can do is continue until the physicians can check him after the lapse time has expired.
Don't vary from your checklist.
Okay. Okay, we have completed 3 minutes of lapse time, 2 minutes remaining. Commissioner, Mr. Long?
Yes.
He is still moving his head slightly. Kind of a bobbing up and down movement. Commissioner?
Yes.
Mr. Long, we have completed 4 minutes of lapse time. We have 1 minute remaining. And from my vantage point, I do detect, or it seems to be, that he is breathing. Commissioner, Mr. Long, we have completed the 5 minutes lapse time. Stand by for the physician's check.
It appears the doctors agree with me that he's still breathing. You want us to check him and then go through it again, or just go ahead and go through it again?
Check him and then go through him again. Definitely check him. Don't vary from the checklist.
All right.
Have them check him.
Okay. I can't think. Did we announce that we're going to do it again?
It doesn't say so.
Okay.
It remains on.
Okay.
Time at 12:26 and 30 seconds.
Commissioner?
Yes.
The doctors verify that he is still alive.
Repeat the execution.
Very well.
Ready to go again? Ready.
Better check all the connections. Well,
Yes, sir.
did you tell the witnesses that you were repeating?
No, I didn't.
I think you should tell them.
Okay. You want me to just advise them that
Just advise that
in the process and not go into any detail?
That's right.
Okay.
Positions and have vital signs.
Wait just a minute.
Tell the position have vital signs.
Commissioner,
Vital.
the superintendent is entering the execution chamber and approaching the mic at this time to advise the witnesses that we will proceed again with the execution.
Willis, if you can, tell him there were some vital signs remaining, so the execution will repeat. You can get that message to him.
Oh, it's too late now. He's already briefed him and he's on the way back in, sir.
All right.
I show the time is 12:28.
Okay, Commissioner, we'll proceed at this time. My count of 3, the pressure button. 1, 2, 3.
Commissioner, Mr. Long, the execution is initiated again at this time. The condemned made one big jerk, and now he is relaxing in the chair. I do not detect any other movement from the condemned at this time. We have completed the first and second phase of the execution. We are now into the third phase. I do detect his head moving side to side again. We're still into the third phase of the execution. Commissioner, Mr. Long?
Yes.
He is still at this time moving his head from side to side and appears to be breathing. We'll continue just like we did previously.
You'll have to check that electric.
We have 15 seconds remaining on the third phase of the execution. Commissioner, Mr. Long, the third phase of the execution is completed. The equipment is switched off, secured at this time. We're now into the 5 minutes lapse time.
What is the status on condemned?
Sir, he appears to be breathing to me.
You're going to have them check those sponges and check their connections. There's something they don't have connected right, Willis, or that.
Yes, sir. You want us to go ahead and complete this whole thing and then...
Yeah, complete your phase, and then you're going to have to make your check.
Okay, sir. Commissioner, Mr. Long, we have completed 1 minute of lapse time. We have 4 minutes remaining. I might also advise at this time that I do not detect any movement from him at this time. He appears to have stopped moving. Still no movement from any of the witnesses. They were just sitting very still, observing the condemned in the chair.
Show the time at 12:32.
We have now completed 2 minutes of phase time, lapse time. We have 3 minutes remaining. Might also add that I do not detect any movement from the condemned. Commissioner, Mr. Long, we have now completed 3 minutes lapse time. We have 2 minutes remaining. There is still no movement from the condemned. Commissioner, Mr. Long, we have completed 4 minutes of lapse time. We have 1 minute remaining. Still no detectable movement from the condemned. He does seem to have stopped moving entirely. Commissioner, Mr. Long, we have completed our 5 minutes lapse time. Stand by for the physician's check. At this time, the superintendent and the 2 physicians are entering the execution chambers for their check. The first doctor is now in the process of making his check for vital signs.
Show the time at 12:36. I show the time is 12:37.
The second doctor is still in the process of conducting his check for vital signs. The superintendent is at this time, Commissioner, Mr. Long, is in the process of briefing the witnesses that at 12:37 hours, this date, the condemned was pronounced dead. He has instructed all witnesses to depart the witness room. Back to the front of the institution. At this time, the curtains are drawn.